tossed and turned last night, all the way the drive here. I thought about, why am I doing this? Every day when a memory pops up, I can brush it aside and push it down and forget. But to sit here and tell the whole story is really hard emotionally. When I see this picture, I think about the day I was told about my dad's arrest. This was the picture that all my friends saw. This was the image that was used in the news.
Not only did Jesperson confess to the murder, but he led authorities to the scene of the crime and produced new evidence.
I used to have this recurring nightmare that I'm in a body bag and my dad's zipping me up, but I'm alive. And I wake up and I remember who my dad is. And I remember the victims. I think about the terror they must have felt the moment that they knew that they weren't going to live anymore. I think about what that must have been like to know you're going to die and that this is your last moment. If you were to tell me the date, 1995, I would tell you it was hell.
What are you laughing about? Hey?
My parents together were amazing. My dad was a long-haul truck driver. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. It was like a Norman Rockwell painting. My dad was charming and good-looking and playful.
These are called moon boots. Oh, boy.
That's how I remembered my dad. After my father was arrested, people would say, how'd you not know about your dad? And that he was capable of this. This is how I saw my dad. This was the version I saw of him. As a little girl, I had no idea that in just a couple of years that my life would be completely different. It's hard to believe that I ever felt so great, that I felt so safe. When my dad was home, all three of us kids would jump on him. And because he was so big, we would take turns trying to, tackle him. We just thought it was fun just to roughhouse with him. But he would take anything fun and then make it into a power game. He would take my hands and shove them back on the bed. And then he would not stop tickling me. I would tell him, stop, stop, stop. I can't take it. And he would really pin me down hard. And it wasn't fun anymore.
Daddy, stop! Stop tickling me!
And he wouldn't stop. He seemed to enjoy it. He was really intent. He was really focused on what he was doing. And it was almost like he didn't even hear me screaming. I'm powerless to stop him. Even when I begged and pleaded for him to stop, he didn't care. My dad knew what I was afraid of, and he would use it against me. My dad liked to take us out into the woods and go hiking. He had some favorite trails that he would take us on. And this one particular trail, there's this bridge. And I was terrified of heights.
Keep on.
I remember as I started to cross it, my dad was behind me. And when I got to the center of the bridge,
Hey, Melissa.
What?
and he picked me up and he dangled me over the bridge. Like he could just drop me. And I said, Dad, I'm scared, I'm scared. So I would be screaming for him to put me down, Dad, put me down, and he would just be laughing. I know he saw me in fear, and it seemed to give him a sense of control over me. He enjoyed me screaming and being terrified. When he was satisfied that I was afraid enough, he put me back down on the bridge. And I bolted and ran to the other side of the bridge. The next time we went to that bridge, I just ran as fast as I could so he couldn't catch me and scare me again. My gosh. I just loved kittens. You could tell I'm clinging on extra tight. I didn't want the cat to leave my sight. I know my dad didn't take this picture because I would have never been able to hold a cat like that in front of my dad. All of these feral animals would come onto our property, mostly cats and stray dogs. And I wanted to mother them, but my dad made it really clear about what animals he liked and disliked. He loved dogs. He purely hated cats. There was this one time he had just gotten home from being out on the road, and I found these little kittens, and I was petting them and playing with them. And then my dad approached me, and he said, what do you have there?
It's a kitty.
And then he's like, I want to play with them.
Daddy, stop.
And so he grabbed one of them.
Daddy, please stop.
I'm not gonna do nothing. Hey there. You having a
Daddy,
good day?
stop.
And I remember he held it up like this, and he was looking at it and playing with it. And then he just grabbed the tail, and then he started dangling it like this in front of me. And that's when I ran into the house to grab my mom. I couldn't find her right away. And it felt like forever.
What are you doing?
When I came back out, my only memory after that is just seeing that they were dead on the ground.
What are you doing? What's going on?
No big deal.
The way that they were laying, it looked like he had smashed them on the ground. I'm so devastated. I'm just hearing them in the background, and my dad acting like nothing had happened.
What is your problem?
I just wish I could forget these things. They just don't go away. It's been over 20 years, and it changed me so much that I can't be around cats. When I see a cat and I start petting a cat, I just go back there. I'm sorry. You can't forget those kind of things,
It's a good thing we passed by when we did. Gotta be careful. 'Cause you never know what some men might want to do.
I could see her eyes, and they're looking more frightened. She definitely looked like she was afraid for her life. I'm often asked, are you worried about your DNA? Are you worried that you're just like your dad? And I was for a long time because I had a lot of traits like my father. And that scared me. They're positive traits, but nevertheless, it's still scary to know I'm like my dad when he was capable of doing the things that he did. His behavior towards women started early. had this babysitter that loved watching me and adored me.
What is that?
He's flying!
She wasn't like other babysitters that turn on the TV and just talk on the phone. She actually would play with me, and that was really special.
Woohoo!
Wait, ready?
Hey, guys. It's time to go.
Come on.
It's time to go.
I'll see you next time, okay?
Okay.
One night, my dad drove her home, and she called my mom and told her that she never wants to come to our house again. And when he came home, my mom was really angry with him.
Keith, what in the hell did you do?
And he continued to walk down the hallway towards their bedroom. And I remember watching my mom follow him and slam the door. And I just waited and listened.
I'm taking the kids and I'm leaving.
Kids stay here.
I remember my babysitter never showed up again. And I would ask my mom what happened to her. And she just said that she had school, she's busy with school. Later, I would learn that he had made advances towards her. And not just advances, but he tried to assault her. My dad started to change after the divorce. He seemed emotionally distant, like his mind was somewhere else. There was definitely something off. I remember one time we're at the diner and the waitress comes up.
Just wanted to check in. How is everything?
Much better now that you're here.
My dad starts to flirt with her. At first, just a little teasing banter.
Just give me a wave if you need something.
I know what I need.
And then he starts to get more vulgar and explicit. It has something to do with her panties.
Then why don't you just sit over here and let me get a feel?
Daddy, stop. You're making her uncomfortable.
It was so explicit that the waitress would look at us and be mortified for us, as we were mortified for her.
I can just imagine what we could do together.
My sister, my brother, and I are sitting at the table, completely appalled, completely disgusted, and embarrassed. He has a smile on his face. We thought, maybe Dad doesn't know he's being so inappropriate. I thought maybe he's just oblivious to social graces. I mean, that's how I justified it. It became such a regular event that every time we went to a restaurant, this would occur. And he would just laugh at me. He would just like smile at me, like it's no big deal. Things started to shift differently with my dad's interactions with people around us. And one particular incident that I remember is the Jesperson family was having a big Christmas reunion at the cabin in the woods. And we were invited to come and see all of our cousins. And he came to Spokane, he picked all of us kids up, and we started to drive. And as we're driving, there on the side of the road was a car that was broken down. And this woman looked in distress.
Hey,
Everything okay?
my car broke down.
You need a lift?
She looks at us and sees us 3 kids in the back seat of the car, and she looks like she feels more safe to get in the car with us.
Yeah, that would be great, actually. Thank you.
She says where her address is, and he just makes small chit-chat about us kids. We're going for Christmas.
Is that your natural color?
Excuse me?
And then it just starts to veer off into a place that makes her uncomfortable.
Your hair. Is that your natural color?
Yeah, it is.
Beautiful. It's a real instant turn on.
Thank you.
He starts commenting on her body, what she looks like,
Good thing we came by when we did.
how she's lucky that he came and got her, that there's really bad people out there.
'Cause you never know what some men might want to do.
In the rearview mirror, I can see her eyes, and they're looking more frightened. Like, what did I just get myself into? And that she wants to get the hell out of my dad's car. It was really, really quiet in the car. Like, there's a lot of tension. You could just feel this tension in the car. She definitely looked like she was afraid for her life. We arrive at the lady's house.
Looks like this is it.
She couldn't get out of the car fast enough. I really thought my dad just had a major character default. There was just something wrong with him. I was just angry with him. Like, why couldn't he just be polite? Why couldn't he just be normal?
And this is my dad next to his semi-truck. This is the truck I remember going into. He would go on the road, and then I would not hear from him for days, weeks at a time, and wonder how he's doing and what was going on in his life.
My dad came for another surprise visit, and he asked to take myself and my siblings out to breakfast. But my sister and my brother had plans. So I remember we started driving, and we took a sharp turn. And as my dad took this sharp turn, this duct tape rolled out. And when I picked it up, a lot of duct tape had been used.
Hey, Dad, what's this?
It's duct tape.
I thought it was strange that there was so much duct tape missing. Like, what would he be using it for? It just struck me as odd.
What is this? Is this his truck? Are you kidding me?
It's a photo given to us by the police.
Oh my God. Sometimes I think, like, some memories are so bad, and you just hope they're not real. The memories are so old, and you start to think it could have just been a nightmare that I just remember details to. It's exactly what I remember seeing. Wow. The duct tape.
At this point in my relationship with my dad, I really didn't feel that comfortable with him. But he invited us to stay at his house for the summer. The thing about the house that was odd is that it had a really negative vibe, and sometimes I would get scared at night. It was my first night in the house. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was scared, and I felt uncomfortable. It had been a while since I slept in the same house with him, and I think that I just had a sense of uneasiness because I was in his presence the whole time. So I ended up going into the living room, and I laid on the couch. And as I was laying on the couch, I was trying to drift into sleep. And when I was looking up, I started to see that there were stains on the ceiling. I was wondering, like, how did stains get on the ceiling? It looked kind of like a splatter. I thought it was, at first, spaghetti sauce, like dried spaghetti sauce. And then I wondered how spaghetti sauce could be up there.
next morning, I told my dad, you have some stains on the ceiling. He's like, what stains? And I pointed to it, and he looked up, and he was just like, oh, we'll get that cleaned.
It's nothing. I'll have it cleaned.
And it never occurred to me what it really could have been. He would pick us up for the visitations with him. And I remember we started driving. The radio is on, I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and I hear him singing, I swear I left her by the river. I swear I left her safe and sound.
Swear I left her by the river. I swear.
My dad's not one to sing, so I could tell he was really drawn to this song. He looked like he was remembering something as he was singing. And I thought maybe this song has some kind of sentimental value to him. And then when the song ended, he kind of snapped out of this whatever trance he was in.
I could get away with it.
He says, I know how to kill someone and get away with it. And without any further prompting, he says that I would cut off the buttons of her jeans so that it wouldn't leave my fingerprints on it. And I would change my shoes so that my sole imprint in the mud would be different.
And I wouldn't get caught.
Caught?
Like he was proud of himself, that he was this mastermind, that he knows something that we don't know. His behavior is becoming more and more bizarre. He was getting more extreme. But I never thought he could be serious about what he was saying. I remember thinking, I'm just glad that we're pulling up to the parking lot so that we could take a break. And I could forget that he's saying such weird things. My dad said, I want you to meet someone. I want you to meet my girlfriend, Julie. She seemed to actually be able to hold her own around my dad.
Okay, so.
Like my dad would try to dominate her, and she seemed to be more strong than any of the other girlfriends that my dad had dated.
Get me a beer.
You want me to get up and go get you a beer? Are your legs broken?
No.
Get your own damn beer.
She had this aura of confidence, and nothing really bothered her. And I thought that's a trait you need to be around my dad.
Wow. Seriously? Did you know that?
Yeah.
What?
I thought maybe she could actually tame him and put him in his place. If that would happen, then I could actually have a relationship with my dad. Never crossed my mind that the reports that were on the news were that close to home.
There's an incident involving your father.
I felt like my whole world was coming to an end. This was beyond what I would have ever thought. The last time I ever saw my dad, I was a freshman in high school, and he said, let's go downtown to a diner and I'll take you to breakfast there. I remember feeling kind of uneasy about the whole situation. I was really done with having to endure him harassing people, but I decided to go ahead, and we both awkwardly tried to talk to each other.
I've been wanting to discuss something.
What is it?
And that's when he said, you know, Missy, not everything is what it appears to be.
Should I be worried?
He said, there's something I need to tell you, but you'll tell the authorities.
I need to know that you're not going to...
To what?
I've never seen him look so serious and so grim, too. Like, he looked like the world was closing in on him.
Ted, what's going on?
No, never mind. I can't do this.
Say it.
He said, no, you'll tell the cops. I can't. I really can't tell you. And I was taken back. So I got up from the booth and I went to the bathroom. I actually remember talking to myself in the stall, like, Melissa, like, you're overreacting. It's all right. It's not a big deal. And I finally collected myself and went back to the table. And that's when the conversation was done. That breakfast just put me over the edge. I was done with his paranoid and creepy behavior. I was done spending time with him. It's just too much for me. It was emotionally draining. I never felt good about our visits. So I would either tell him I don't want to see him anymore or just ignore his phone calls and invitations from that point forward. We just don't get serial killers in Spokane. Like, we don't have major crime normally.
There have been multiple homicides, and then multiple police departments are working together to try and see if there's any apparent overlap in the nature of these killings, and ultimately
But there was a serial killer that was in the area, and we knew that some victims lived in our town and were missing. I was pretty nervous that there could be a serial killer because I walked to school and I was alone often.
So far, they have linked 3 murders. However, police are not willing to release details of the case due to the nature of the
But it
ongoing
happened in
investigation.
Portland, it happened in Wyoming, it happened in Florida. It wasn't just in our area. So I thought that it was unlikely that it could be anybody close to me. Never crossed my mind that the reports that were on the news were that close to home.
There are striking similarities between the homicides, and they are in the process of consulting with the FBI.
The last time I saw him was in September, and then Christmas came around. I didn't hear from him. And then it was several more months. It was spring. And I kept thinking, like, this is really odd that I've not heard from my dad in many months. This is abnormal for even him. And one day I come home after school.
Melissa?
And I hear my mom calling my name to have a family meeting.
Sit down. We need to talk.
At first, I thought how odd it was that my mom would call all of us for a family meeting because we don't have family meetings. We weren't that type of family.
What's going on? There's an incident involving your father.
What happened?
Is he okay?
He's been,
And she said, Dad's in prison. And that kind of had to sink in for a second. And then my brother said, for what? And she said, for murder. There was no more elaboration on who or what the details were. My mind tried to process what type of murder did my dad commit? Did he get in a fight because he was 6'6"? He was a large man. He could easily have accidentally killed another man. And then I remembered the cats. And that's when I pictured him strangling a woman. And then it just seems like that was probably right. I felt like my whole world was coming to an end. Like this was beyond what I would have ever thought. I knew I needed to get some answers, and so I went to the town's library and I started pulling newspaper articles. I wasn't expecting to see what I saw. He was in there for the murder of Julie Winningham.
My dad's fiance.
I actually had to read it twice. Like, it was somebody I met and someone so innocent. This wasn't just an accident, you know, some bar fight. This was someone he was really close to. He was actually going to marry her. The hardest part was reading how Julie Winningham died. That she pleaded with my dad as he was strangling her, that even when she was pleading to his humanity, that it wasn't there.
This is Julie Winningham. And this is the face that haunts me. Her eyes look very trusting. She probably doesn't know that the man she loves is who he is. I'm sure she didn't see any signs that my dad was capable of what he was capable. It's hard to look at her face. I don't want to look at it anymore.
You really did this?
I can tell you there's all sorts of reasons.
He was actually confessing more and more. I thought my dad would save me from anything. I thought that my dad would protect me from anything. I thought my dad loved me. I didn't know this person. It was the definition of living a double life. He was a family man. He was charming. He was good looking. But he was something else inside. He was actually confessing more and more. So now it was not only Julie Winningham that I read, but it was potentially more. It was the murder of his fiancée and Tanya Bennett and Angela Subbreeze and all these names just started coming up. And I had never heard of those names before. These were strangers. My dad was labeled the happy-faced serial killer. He would write letters to the media, and he would give clues about different murder cases. And he would sign the end of the anonymous letter with a smiley face. I had heard that there was the happy-faced serial killer, but I had no idea that it could be my dad. I had no idea.
This is Tanya Bennett, my dad's first victim that he said looked like my mom. My mom had the same warm smile. It was her blood that I saw on the ceiling. He beat her to the point where you couldn't recognize her.
Something splattered all over.
The fact that I slept in the same house that he killed a woman in. The car that he drove me in, he used to dispose a body of.
I can kill someone.
The truck that I was in, he killed his fiancée in. It's like everything that was normal was now tainted. My whole life and existence with my dad was a lie. It made me question everything he said, everything he did. My mind was racing, trying to come up with some conclusion as to why my dad did what he did. The visit didn't go as I thought it would go. In my head, I thought that I would see him and that all my questions would be answered and that it wouldn't be a scary experience. But I wasn't prepared for the real visit that I had. And he sat right in front of me, and I thought he looked exactly like a criminal. And the first thing he said to me is, "Missy, my best advice is that you change your last name." And that's when I knew he was guilty.
You really did all this?
And then he looked straight at me and said, "You probably want to know why, don't you?"
I can tell you there's all sorts of reasons.
I felt that I was naive and stupid and not equipped, for the situation. And I was too much of a coward. I said no. My dad was given a life sentence for the murder of Tanya Bennett.
Keith Hunter Jesperson committed the murder of Tanya Bennett. He led authorities to the crime scene where they found her purse.
And then also the murder of Julie Winningham.
And to accept responsibility for the death of Julianne Winningham, I am pleading guilty.
From there, it just compounded. It was another life sentence and then another life sentence. My father claims that he killed over 163 women, but we know of at least 8 women that he's killed. There's potential that there's more women. We just don't know at this point.
These are 2 women that are unidentified, and I know there are more. I wonder if my dad gave the description for this drawing. These 2 women, their family members don't have any answers. And yet this is 2, and there may be many, many more women that are missing that my dad had a hand in their demise. It just makes me wonder, how far back did my dad start killing women? My dad went to bed next to my mom, next to my siblings, with this knowledge that he took their lives and slept fine.
About 15 years after the arrest of my dad and the conviction of my dad, I had a visit with my grandfather. And I started asking questions about my dad.
Sometimes I wonder what he was thinking.
And he took a pause, and he looked out away from me, and he said, "I have something I should tell you."
I need to get this off my chest. I spoke to Keith.
And he said, I went and visited him in prison, and he said something to me that I'll never forget.
What is it?
And he said, "Your dad had told me that he had thoughts of killing you and your siblings."
But something kept him from it.
I wasn't prepared to hear that at all. My mind went to the time where my dad was talking to me in the diner and telling me he had something to tell me, and I was alone with him.
I need to know that you're not going to...
To what?
I don't know how that would have played out if he would have told me. I think I might have been a victim.
I'm sorry.
I had a hard time wrapping my head around the man I knew, the father, the loving father that I saw and experienced, to the cold-blooded killer that he's known to be. So I saw them as two split people, that one was my father and one was...
They say some winters never thaw, that certain nights linger in the bones of a town long after the snow has melted, refusing to let the past sink quietly beneath the soil. In the frozen stretch of 1999, the people of Marrow Creek learned this the hard way. A single disappearance carved itself into the landscape like a scar that refused to fade, a cold case that turned into a whispered warning shared across decades. And no one knew then that the truth, buried in silence, rotting beneath guilt, would one day claw its way back to the surface because a witness too frightened to speak finally ran out of time. But before the confession, before the knock at the station door, before investigators found themselves staring into the unraveling threads of a forgotten nightmare, there was just a girl walking home under a sky that felt too heavy for its own darkness. It was December 3rd, 1999, a Friday night wrapped in the kind of quiet that settles over small towns before the holidays, when people are busy stringing lights and pretending winter is gentler than it truly is. 17-year-old Marina Holloway left her shift at the Evergreen Diner just after 8 p.m., tossing her apron into her backpack and waving goodbye to the cook, who yelled something about the roads freezing early. Marina laughed, zipped up her red jacket, and stepped outside. Her breath rose in sharp clouds. A street lamp buzzed overhead, painting the empty parking lot in a sickly cone of light. The town felt still, too still, as though holding its breath. Marina didn't notice the stillness. She walked with the tired rhythm of someone who'd walked the same route 100 times, past the shuttered bookstore, across the old wooden bridge, then along the tree-lined path that led toward her neighborhood. She liked the quiet. She liked how the river whispered under the bridge. She liked how the lights of Marrow Creek glowed soft and warm across the water. She liked the peace, until the peace betrayed her. Somewhere between the bridge and the bend in the road, Marina vanished. No scream, no struggle, no witnesses, just absence, terrifying in its simplicity. Her mother reported her missing by midnight. Officers searched until dawn. They found nothing. No footprints beyond her own. No abandoned belongings. No signs of violence. The only strange detail came from an elderly man who lived near the riverbank. He claimed he heard a car idling late that night. A slow, steady growl beneath the wind. But when asked what kind of car, he only muttered, "Something old. Something wrong with it." Sounded like it was breathing heavy. 36 hours later, they found Marina's backpack half buried in snow near the old logging trail. Her books were still inside. Her wallet. Her lipstick. Everything perfectly untouched. As if the bag had been placed there gently, deliberately, by someone who wanted it found, but not too quickly. The cold case began that night. Marrow Creek shifted. Parents stopped letting their kids walk alone. Teenagers told stories of shadows on the bridge. Police patrols doubled. Volunteers scoured the woods for weeks, plunging through snowdrifts and thick underbrush until exhaustion turned to resignation. By the time spring arrived, Marina's disappearance had become a wound too deep to heal and too mysterious to ignore. The newspapers called it the Holloway Frost Mystery, a name that stuck like ice to the town's identity. Detectives chased every lead. A drifter who'd passed through town. A neighbor with a suspicious schedule. A boyfriend with too many alibis. None of it held. Every suspect dissolved under scrutiny. Every theory fell apart in the cold light of evidence. The case grew stagnant, paralyzed by contradictions and silence. Eventually, the file was pushed to the back of a metal drawer labeled Unsolved, a place where tragedies go to sleep but never die. For 24 years, The town lived beneath the weight of that unsolved riddle. People moved away. The Evergreen Diner changed owners. The bridge rotted at its edges. New families moved in, unaware of the story that lingered like a shadow behind every winter gust. Only the old-timers remembered the way the town changed that night, how people walked faster, locked doors earlier, and never looked at the river the same way again. Then, one morning in early 2024, a knock echoed through the Marrow Creek Sheriff's Office. Slow, deliberate, almost apologetic. Deputy Marcus Finn opened the door to find an elderly man standing there, his shoulders hunched, his eyes hollowed by years of secrecy. He held a folded piece of paper in his trembling hand, and when he spoke, his voice sounded like gravel dragged across ice. "I need to tell you what I saw," he said. Deputy Finn ushered him inside, offering him water, a seat, reassurance. But the man shook his head. "No time," he whispered. "I should have come sooner. They said I should. They warned me. But I was afraid." His name was Henry Locke, a former machinist who had lived in Marrow Creek his entire life. He'd been at the river the night Marina disappeared. He'd been walking home from the mill after a late shift, taking the shortcut past the bridge. He hadn't spoken to anyone about what he saw. Not then, not in the years since. Not because he didn't care, but because he cared too much. Fear had swallowed the truth before it ever reached the surface. Now, 24 years later, fear was no longer enough to hold it down. Henry's confession spilled out in fragments, disjointed memories sharpened by guilt. He said he saw Marina on the bridge, talking to someone in a dark jacket. Not arguing, not frightened, just talking, as if she knew the person, as if she trusted them. Henry couldn't see the stranger's face clearly, but he remembered something else, the sound. The same sound the elderly man had mentioned decades ago. The idling engine. Heavy, labored, almost human in the way it seemed to inhale and exhale. Henry heard it before he saw the car. A beat-up sedan, maybe brown or gray, creeping forward from the shadows of the path. Marina's head turned toward it. She didn't run. She didn't shout. She simply turned, as if she expected it. Henry froze. Something about the scene felt wrong, but he couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the way the stranger kept shifting their weight, as if impatient. Maybe it was the way the headlights flickered like dying candles. Or maybe it was the feeling, heavy and instinctive, that Marina was walking into something she couldn't walk back out of. Henry said he wanted to call out, wanted to tell her to stop, wanted to shout her name. But the fear rose inside him so fast, so violently, it strangled the words in his throat. The stranger looked over their shoulder, just once, and Henry felt a chill slide down his spine so sharp he thought his heart had stopped. He couldn't see the eyes, couldn't see the face, but something in that glance froze him more deeply than the winter ever could. He backed away slowly, unnoticed, disappearing into the trees like a man fleeing a nightmare he wasn't ready to face. He went home. He locked his door, and he never spoke a word. Until now. Deputy Finn asked him why he had waited so long. Henry opened his shaking hand, revealing an object he'd carried for over 20 years. A key. Small. Brass. Worn smooth by time. The number 17 etched into the metal. "This was on the ground where she stood," he said. "I picked it up. I kept it. I don't know why. I thought maybe it meant something. Maybe someone would come looking for it." Finn examined the key. It was too small for a car, too old for a house. More like a storage unit key. A locker. A lockbox. Something meant to hold secrets, not open doors. Investigators pried open the cold case file for the first time in years. The main detective, Rowan Gates, gathered his team, scattering the evidence across the table. Marina's photo stared up at them from the center, her brown hair pulled back, her smile warm, unaware of the shadow looming behind her. The red jacket, the backpack, the icy path home. Now the key. Now the witness. Now a confession that had slept for 24 years. Rowan asked Henry where exactly the conversation had taken place. Henry pointed to the map, the precise center of the bridge, the place Marina always paused to watch the water. Rowan felt something shift in his gut. Marina didn't stop randomly. She stopped because someone was waiting for her. Someone she knew. Someone she trusted just enough to pause under the buzzing street lamp. The investigation reignited with renewed urgency. Detectives searched local storage facilities, hunting for a lock that matched the old brass key. The first 3 locations yielded nothing. The fourth locked gate refused to budge. But the fifth, an older facility abandoned in the early 2000s, revealed something unsettling. In the snow behind the rusted row of units, someone had shoveled a path recently. Rowan's pulse spiked. Unit 17 stood ahead, its padlock decades out of use. But the key Henry brought had a twin, embedded in the metal, etched with the same number. Rowan inserted the key. It turned too easily, as if someone had oiled the lock not long ago. He pushed the door open. Cold air rushed out, still, heavy, holding the faint scent of earth and metal. Dust danced in the narrow shaft of light slipping through the open door. Inside the unit, stacked neatly against the far wall, were wooden crates. Old, warped, held together with rusted nails. And on top of one crate lay a single Polaroid. A picture of the bridge. Taken at night. Taken on December 3rd, 1999. Under the image, in faint handwriting. She didn't walk away. Rowan felt his breath catch. Henry's confession hadn't solved the cold case. It had reopened it. And somewhere in Marrow Creek, someone who knew the truth had been waiting 24 years for the police to finally turn the key. The Polaroid lay in Rowan's gloved hand like a pulse from the past. A frozen gasp of the night Marina disappeared. A bridge swallowed in darkness. A timestamp burned into the lower corner like a wound that never healed. December 3rd, 1999. The same night the snow fell early. The same night a girl vanished without leaving a footprint behind. And now, 24 years later, someone had placed that photo inside Unit 17, as though preserving it for the exact moment the key resurfaced. As though they had expected Henry to finally come forward. As though everything, the confession, the key, the timing, had been orchestrated with chilling precision. Rowan stepped deeper into the storage unit, flashlight beams slicing through dust that swirled like spirits disturbed. The wooden crates lined the walls in orderly stacks, each identical, each marked with faded numbers that meant nothing yet whispered importance. He lifted one lid. Empty. Another. Empty. A third, also empty. No tools. No documents. No clothing. Whoever used this unit had removed everything except the photo. As if the crates themselves were props, placeholders, distractions meant to shape an illusion of storage while holding nothing but silence. Deputy Finn stood at the entrance, breath fogging in pale bursts. Detective, this doesn't feel like a crime scene. No, Rowan murmured. It feels like a message. A staging ground. A memory vault. A place for someone who wanted the past to remain alive, preserved like a specimen behind glass. Rowan turned the Polaroid over. On the back, in the same faint handwriting, hardly visible unless tilted toward the light, a single sentence curled like a whispered secret. You saw more than you admitted. He felt the weight of the words settle across his shoulders. Words not meant for him, but for Henry Locke. Someone had known Henry was there the night Marina disappeared. Someone had watched him. Someone who had kept the secret longer than Henry himself. Rowan slipped the photo into an evidence sleeve, heart pounding. Outside, wind rattled the tin siding of the abandoned storage facility. Snow drifted across the ground in thin sheets, erasing footprints almost as soon as they formed, swallowing the last traces of anyone who might have been there recently. Rowan turned to Finn. Get units to canvass the area. We need prints, tire tracks, anything before the snow buries it. Finn nodded and jogged toward the patrol car. The sheriff, an aging man who carried decades of unsolved cases like scars beneath his uniform, arrived moments later. He peered into the storage unit, eyes narrowing. Why leave a photo? Why now? Rowan didn't look up. Because Henry talked. Someone knew he would, and they wanted to shape what came next. The sheriff frowned. You think the witness was being watched? I think the witness was never alone. The words felt heavier than he expected, ringing through the cold air like a bell tolling for the dead. They returned to the station with the Polaroid, the key, and the crates photographed from every angle. The air inside the sheriff's office crackled with old energy, fear, curiosity, the rising pulse of a case awakening after decades of stillness. Investigators gathered around the table, their faces drawn tight with anticipation. Rowan placed the Polaroid at the center. This wasn't abandoned. This was curated. Someone has been keeping this case alive. A young detective leaned over the table. Could the photo have been taken by Marina herself? Maybe she. No, Rowan cut in. His voice was calm, but edged with steel. This was taken from a distance. Someone on the opposite bank. Someone watching. A hush fell across the room. Watching. That word slid across everyone's nerves. The bridge had always been the heart of the mystery. Not the diner. Not the logging trail. The bridge, where Marina paused, where Henry saw her talking to someone, where the air felt wrong. And now, the Polaroid confirmed what Rowan had always suspected but could never prove. Someone had eyes on Marina that night. He studied the image again. The angle was slightly elevated, farther than the riverbank, higher than a standing person, perhaps taken from the maintenance walkway beneath the bridge's metal ribs, a narrow space rarely used except by city workers. Someone knew the structure intimately. Someone who spent time there, not once, but often enough to move comfortably in the darkness. Someone familiar with the bridge's forgotten corners. Marina's disappearance wasn't spontaneous. It was staged. Rowan took a slow breath. His voice softened to something almost reverent, almost angry. Someone planned this. Someone who knew her route. Someone who waited. Henry's partial memory, shaken loose by guilt, returned to him like pieces of a shattered window. The stranger's silhouette. The idling car. The flickering headlights. The shifting weight of someone impatient. Rowan wrote each fragment on a board, connecting them like veins in a body waiting for resurrection. Forensic teams analyzed the Polaroid within hours. The film type, discontinued in 2002. The chemical decay, consistent with age, not sunlight exposure. The dye, faded but intact. Whoever preserved it had kept it safe from heat, moisture, and UV light. They had cared for it, protected it, as if it meant something. Rowan rubbed the bridge of his nose, thinking, assembling possibilities like a puzzle too warped to fit cleanly. He stared at the empty crates. Why leave these? Why keep them empty? A tech approached. Detective, the crates were used before. Light scratches inside. But whatever was stored in them wasn't heavy. Rowan lifted one again, ran his finger across the inside. Felt nothing but dry wood and old dust. Boxes to hold secrets, he murmured. Not objects. As dusk bled into the sky outside, Henry Locke was brought into a quiet interview room. His hands still trembled. His eyes held a haunted vacancy. Guilt was eating him alive. Rowan sat across from him. Henry, someone thinks you saw more than you said. Henry's body tensed. I told you everything. I swear it. You told us what you remember, Rowan corrected gently. But memory can protect us. It can hide pieces we can't face. Henry stared at the table, jaw tightening. I didn't see a face. I didn't hear anything but the engine. I didn't. You saw something, Rowan interrupted softly. Something you've ignored for 24 years. Henry's eyes shone with tears he refused to let fall. Detective, if I saw it, it would have destroyed me. Rowan leaned forward. It did destroy you. The silence after that was thick, suffocating. Henry swallowed hard. His voice cracked. There was someone else. On the bridge. After she disappeared. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't know if it was real. I looked back once. Just once. And I saw them standing where she had stood. Not the stranger. Not Marina. Rowan's pulse kicked. Who? He whispered. Henry shook his head violently. I don't know. I don't know. Just a figure. Dark coat. Still as stone. Watching me. Like I'd intruded. Rowan felt the air tighten around him. A second person. A second witness. Silent. Waiting. Predatory. The sheriff stepped forward. Henry, did they see you? Henry's lips trembled. I think they already knew I was there. Fear rippled through the room. Someone had been on the bridge after Marina vanished. Someone who remained until Henry turned around. Someone comfortable enough to stay in plain sight. Rowan dismissed Henry gently, promising protection, though he knew the man feared shadows more than people now. Later that night, Rowan and Finn walked the abandoned storage facility again. Snow crunched beneath their boots. The wind whispered through cracks in the metal siding. The sky hung low, heavy as a bruise. Rowan stopped at Unit 17, staring at the lock. This wasn't left here for Henry, he said quietly. It was left for us. Finn looked unsettled. Why would the killer want us to find this? Rowan's gaze drifted to the rows of empty crates. Because he wants the story told the way he remembers it. A pause. And because he isn't finished. Finn exhaled sharply. After 24 years? Obsession doesn't expire. They stood in silence as the snow fell heavier, burying their footprints. Something flickered in the corner of Rowan's vision. A shadow. A movement. But when he turned, nothing stood there, only darkness pooling between the rows of units. Finn shifted uneasily. "Detective, we should head back." Rowan nodded slowly, but his thoughts remained anchored to the bridge, the Polaroid, the confession, the crates, the stranger's silhouette, threads converging into a shape that felt too deliberate, too orchestrated to be coincidence. As they walked toward the patrol car, Rowan cast one last look at Unit 17. A thought struck him like a cold blade. The crates weren't empty because nothing had been stored in them. They were empty because something had been removed. Recently, someone had come back. Someone had taken something with them. And the Polaroid left behind wasn't the secret. It was the invitation. Snow drifted across the highway like ash shaken loose from an old fire, swirling around the patrol car as Rowan drove back toward town. The headlights carved thin tunnels through the darkness, but nothing felt illuminated. Not the road, not the case, not the truth. The cold case file had reopened like a wound that refused stitches, bleeding questions faster than answers could clot. Henry Locke's confession had cracked the ice, but beneath the surface lay something older, something deliberate, something patient enough to wait 24 years for the key to turn in Unit 17. And Rowan couldn't ignore the gnawing certainty that whoever placed the Polaroid inside that storage unit hadn't done it randomly. They knew Henry's guilt would eventually rise. They knew the police would follow the trail. They knew the story wasn't finished. When he arrived at the sheriff's office, the night shift buzzed with anxious energy. Investigators hovered over maps, reports, and old photos, connecting dots that had been abandoned decades ago. At the center of the chaos was Marina's school portrait, her smile bright, her eyes soft, unaware of the storm that awaited her. Rowan paused, feeling the weight of her presence, the echoes of a life interrupted. Deputy Finn approached him, face drawn tight. "Detective, we found something else." He led Rowan to the evidence lab, where a crate from Unit 17 sat under bright fluorescent light. But this time, the lid was open, and inside, embedded in the wood grain, barely visible unless you knew what to search for, was a small symbol. A carving, a mark, a circle. Perfect, precise. Inside it, a single vertical line. Not etched crudely, but carved with purpose, with care. Rowan leaned closer. "This wasn't accidental." A forensic tech nodded. "We enhanced the pattern. It matches tool marks from a fine engraving blade. Whoever carved it was skilled." "Steady." Finn crossed his arms. "A signature?" "No," Rowan murmured. "A footprint. Something left behind not to be discovered immediately, but to be recognized once the right eyes searched for it. A symbol threaded through the case like a hidden rhythm." Rowan stared at it, mind racing. "Check if this mark appears anywhere else in the evidence archive. Photos, old reports, anything from 99 onward." The tech nodded and began scanning files. Rowan stepped back, pulse rising with a sense of inevitability. Whoever had been involved with Marina's disappearance hadn't simply vanished into the void. They had been watching, quietly, subtly, leaving traces small enough to ignore, but deliberate enough to assemble into meaning once the pattern revealed itself. Rowan moved to the whiteboard where Marina's timeline was sketched in thin black marker. He traced the path from the diner to the bridge, to the logging trail where the backpack was found. 3 points. A triangle. And now, Unit 17 added a 4th point, expanding the shape into something more complex. A cross pattern. 2 intersecting axes. 2 opposing forces. 2 watchers. Because Henry had seen 2 figures on the bridge, Marina and the stranger, and then, moments later, a second shadow standing exactly where she had stood. Whoever that was, it wasn't the same person Marina had spoken to. 2 figures. 2 roles. 2 predators. Or 1 predator and 1 witness who was never meant to speak. Rowan forced the thought aside. He needed evidence, not speculation. He left the conference room and made his way to the small archive where old case materials were stored. Dust clung to the boxes like a shroud. The scent of stale paper, forgotten tragedies, and frozen time lingered here. He pulled a file labeled Incident Reports, Winter 99, and leafed through the yellowed pages. He stopped when he reached a report filed 1 week before Marina disappeared. A maintenance worker had reported hearing unusual activity under the bridge late at night. Metal shifting, footsteps, a flashlight beam. The report was dismissed due to lack of evidence and the worker's reputation for embellishment. But Rowan's chest tightened. What if he wasn't embellishing, he whispered. He scanned further. Another report. A teenager claimed he saw a man near the old maintenance walkway under the bridge, holding something in his hand, watching the road above. Dismissed as a prank or paranoia. Then another. A jogger who noticed a rusted sedan parked near the river multiple nights in a row. The same detail Henry had described, the heavy, labored sound of the engine. Rowan collected the reports and brought them to the main room. He pinned them beside the Polaroid, forming a constellation of warning signs everyone had ignored in 1999. The sheriff entered just as Rowan stepped back. Find something? The older man asked. Patterns, Rowan said. Someone was preparing. Someone spent weeks, maybe months, watching Marina. The sheriff frowned. Why her? Rowan shook his head. We need to look at her life. People she knew. People who passed through her routines unnoticed. He pulled Marina's school record, her job schedule, her phone logs, her old library card usage. Nothing stood out. Nothing screamed danger. She wasn't involved in drugs. She wasn't running with a dangerous crowd. She wasn't arguing with family or hiding secrets. She was ordinary. And that terrified Rowan more than anything. Because predators don't choose extraordinary victims. They choose the accessible, the predictable, the ones who walk the same path home every night across an old bridge with failing lights and too many blind spots. As Rowan scanned the documents, another detail caught his attention, a maintenance log from the Evergreen Bridge. On October 18, 1999, a request was submitted to repair the maintenance walkway railing beneath the structure. The request was approved, but the work was never completed. The staff member assigned to the job? Mark Cavanaugh, a name Rowan didn't recognize. He searched the database. No active address. No employment record past 2001. No forwarding information. Just a note, moved out of state. Rowan's stomach dropped. Finn, he called, and the deputy rushed over. Rowan handed him the maintenance sheet. Find everything on this man. Every job, every record, every address. He may be our bridge figure. Finn nodded and sprinted to the computer station. But Rowan wasn't convinced Cavanaugh was the only answer. The crates in Unit 17, the engraving mark, the Polaroid, all had the signature of someone meticulous, someone who curated their secrets like artifacts. That required discipline, patience, control. Not impulsiveness. Not panic. Whoever orchestrated Marina's disappearance wasn't sloppy. They planned, observed, waited. If Cavanaugh was involved, he wasn't acting alone. Rowan paced the room, retracing Henry's final memory. The stranger's impatience. The flickering headlights. Marina turning willingly. And the second figure, silent, watching. He returned to the Polaroid. The handwriting. Small. Controlled. Vertical strokes. Writers reveal themselves in their penmanship. Personality carved into ink. The forensic handwriting analyst arrived shortly after and examined the text with a magnifier. After 10 minutes, she looked up. This handwriting shows someone highly disciplined. Analytical. Repetitive. Every letter is nearly identical. Meaning? Rowan asked. Meaning whoever wrote this has been writing the same way for decades. Such a person wouldn't suddenly disappear from all records. Unless they wanted to. Rowan rubbed his forehead, frustration simmering. Something wasn't aligning. Two figures on the bridge. A Polaroid placed with intent. A key hidden for decades. Crates emptied recently. Then his eyes froze on a photograph pinned beside Marina's. A photo taken at the diner during a winter fundraiser. Marina stood beside a table of pastries, smiling. Behind her, partially obscured by a garland, stood a man. Not posing. Not smiling. Watching. A face Rowan had overlooked every time he reviewed the file. A face he now recognized. His breath caught. He reached for the image with trembling fingers. The sheriff stepped forward. Rowan? What is it? Rowan's voice dropped to a whisper. Henry wasn't the only witness. The sheriff frowned. Explain. This man, Rowan said, tapping the figure behind Marina. He knew her. He worked odd jobs around town. He volunteered at the school once. He was background noise. Always close enough to be seen, but never close enough to be noticed. Who is he? Rowan swallowed. Leonard Keene. The name hung in the air like a frostbitten breath. A man who had lived in Marrow Creek until 2002. A man with no arrest record. A man who vanished quietly. No forwarding address. No goodbye. Just gone. Finn returned at that moment, breathless. Detective Cavanaugh? He died in 2007. Car accident. Out of state. Rowan nodded slowly. Then he wasn't the planner. Finn blinked. Then who? Rowan turned the diner photo toward him. Him. Finn leaned closer, eyes widening. That's Keen. Didn't he move away a year after Marina disappeared? No, Rowan said, voice hardening. He didn't move. The room went silent. Rowan continued softly, chillingly. He hid. He stared at the Polaroid, the crates, the key, the symbol carved into wood. This wasn't a message to Henry, Rowan said. This was a reminder. A reminder of what? The sheriff asked. That someone else was on that bridge, Rowan said. Someone who stood in the exact spot Marina vanished from. Someone who wanted Henry to see him. He inhaled slowly, realization tightening around his lungs. And someone who's been waiting 24 years for the police to look him in the eyes. The name hung in the air long after Rowan spoke it, drifting across the room like a cold draft slipping under a locked door. Leonard Keene, a name that once meant nothing to anyone. Someone forgettable, someone quiet, someone who lived his life like a smudge in the margins of Marrow Creek's memory. But now that smudge had sharpened into a silhouette with sharp edges and darker intentions. The investigators stared at the old diner photograph as though the paper might begin to burn under their scrutiny. There he stood, half hidden by holiday decorations, eyes fixed on Marina with an intensity no one saw back then. Eyes that didn't smile, didn't soften, didn't belong to someone casually caught in the frame. Eyes that studied. Eyes that selected. Rowan felt the temperature in the room drop. He reached for the magnifier and held it over Keene's face. Even blurred, even distant, there was something unsettling in the set of his jaw, the tilt of his neck, the rigid posture of someone more alert than any man had reason to be at a high school bake sale. He wasn't participating. He wasn't browsing. He was observing. Waiting. Finn hovered behind him. Detective, are we sure this isn't just coincidence? He lived here. People passed through the diner. Coincidence doesn't carve symbols into crates in abandoned storage units, Rowan said quietly. Coincidence doesn't take Polaroids from hiding places only the bridge maintenance crew would know about. The sheriff stepped closer. You think Keene's alive? Rowan looked up from the photograph, and the silence that followed was answer enough. No one who leaves a town quietly leaves it dead. Not someone who engraves symbols with precision. Not someone who hides keys. Not someone who places photos like breadcrumbs meant to lead the right mind down the right path. People like that don't disappear, they hibernate. And when they wake, they want witnesses. Pull his employment records, Rowan said. Neighbors. Relatives. Every address he ever lived at. I want to know where he worked, where he ate, who he spoke to, who he watched. Finn sprinted to the database console. The sheriff exhaled slowly, staring at the board. If Keene was involved, what about the second figure Henry saw? Someone standing where Marina was just moments before. Rowan didn't answer, because his mind was already sinking deeper into the abandoned threads of the past. Threads that twisted and knotted in ways he hadn't recognized until now. Two figures on the bridge. One speaking to Marina. Another stepping into her place after she was gone. A ritual. A sequence. A choreography. Keene was the planner. But planners don't always work alone. A suddenly loud burst of static erupted from the police radio, followed by a dispatcher's anxious voice. Detective, you might want to hear this. We got a call. No caller ID. No voice. Just breathing. Breathing. Rowan's chest tightened. And then, the dispatcher continued, voice trembling. A single word. Whispered. Bridge. Then the line cut. The room snapped into motion. Trace it, Rowan ordered. We're trying, the dispatcher replied. Signal bounced twice. Might be local. Might not. Rowan grabbed his coat. Finn followed. No one questioned the decision. They were already moving. The night outside hit them like a wall of cold iron. The sky was low, heavy with frozen clouds. Snow clung to Rowan's eyelashes as he started the engine. The bridge was only minutes away, but each mile felt stretched, as though time itself resisted their arrival. The radio crackled with updates, but nothing that mattered. Nothing that closed the gap. And then, through the swirling snow, the evergreen bridge appeared, rising from the river like the ribcage of some long-dead creature. The metal beams groaned in the wind, whispering old secrets down to the frozen water. The walkway lights flickered faintly, just like Henry had described from the night Marina disappeared. Rowan stepped onto the bridge cautiously. Finn followed, flashlight beam trembling against steel. For a moment, nothing moved. Nothing breathed. Nothing but the hum of the river below. Then Rowan saw it. Pinned to the railing with a small nail was another Polaroid. Fresh. He reached out slowly, as though touching a venomous animal. The image showed Marina again, but not from behind, not at a distance. This time, she was facing the camera, her expression soft, curious, the glow of her innocence stark against the darkness around her. Behind her, half-formed in shadow, a figure stood. Not keen. Too tall. Too broad. Too rigid. A second man. The caption beneath the image, scrawled in the same disciplined hand as the first, sent a shiver into Rowan's spine and deeper still. You forgot him. Finn swore under his breath. There were two. Rowan's mind raced. For decades, the town believed Marina vanished because of a single perpetrator, a lone predator haunting the winter. But the evidence now whispered something more sinister. A partnership built on surveillance, obsession, and silence. Two men. One who spoke to Marina. One who watched Henry. One who led. One who followed. A ritualized act. A sequence repeated across Polaroids like scenes from a film that had never reached theaters. Rowan studied the figure again. The posture was unfamiliar, not hunched like the man in the diner photo. Not angled like the silhouette in the earlier Polaroid. This one stood straight, shoulders squared, as though he owned the night around him. Who the hell is he? Finn whispered. Before Rowan could answer, headlights appeared at the far end of the bridge. A patrol car. Officers stepped out, breath fogging, weapons ready. Detective, one called. We found something on the north bank. They led Rowan to a narrow path just beneath the bridge. Footprints, faint but real, pressed into the snow. Too large to be Marina's. Too deep to be casual. Someone heavy. Someone deliberate. Rowan knelt, tracing the edges of the print. The sheriff crouched beside him. Fresh. Maybe an hour old, Rowan murmured. Maybe minutes. He's taunting us, Finn said. No, Rowan replied. He's gathering us. At the phrase, Finn blinked. What do you mean? Rowan looked up, eyes narrowing as the truth unfolded like a winter storm breaking open. These Polaroids. These symbols. The crates. The key. The phone call. All of it. It isn't random. It's a design. Someone wants all eyes on the bridge. Someone wants us standing exactly where we're standing, following a path laid out 24 years ago. Finn stiffened. A reenactment. Or an unfinished act, Rowan whispered. The snow deepened around them. The river groaned beneath the ice. Rowan's mind replayed Marina's last known movements. Her smile, her jacket, her trust. He imagined Keen watching from the shadows. The second figure waiting. The car idling. Henry trapped between fear and instinct. What if the key wasn't meant to unlock Unit 17? Rowan murmured softly. What if it was meant to unlock memory? The sheriff frowned. Detective, speak plainly. The Polaroids, Rowan continued, aren't evidence. They're instructions. They're pulling us backward into 1999. He wants us to walk the same route, see the same sights, stand in the same places. And eventually, he stopped. Finn inhaled sharply. What? Rowan rose slowly, staring into the dark tree line beyond the bridge. He wants us to finish the story he started. The wind howled suddenly, whipping snow sideways across the bridge. A crack echoed, metal flexing under the cold. Then another. Then a sound that was not wind, not metal, not natural. A slow clap. Once. Twice. 3 times. Echoing from the shadowed walkway beneath the bridge. Officers raised their weapons, flashlights dancing wildly. Show yourself, Finn shouted. No response. Just silence. And then, a voice. Low. Steady. Delivered with the calm certainty of someone who had watched them for a very long time. You were late. Rowan froze. The voice came from beneath them, drifting up through the slats of the bridge, carried on cold air like a ghost's exhale. Rowan stepped forward, gripping the railing, peering down. He saw nothing at first. Then, for a fraction of a moment, a silhouette moved under the bridge's steel ribs. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Not Keen. The second figure. The one Henry saw. The one who replaced Marina on the bridge. He stepped backward into darkness, swallowed instantly, as though the shadows themselves claimed him. Officers scrambled down the bank, lights cutting through the underpass, but the space was empty. Only wet footprints leading toward the tree line, and stopping abruptly as if the man had simply dissolved into the night. Finn ran back toward Rowan, breath shaking. How did he get away that fast? Rowan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Because deep inside, beneath the adrenaline, beneath the fear, beneath the rage, a single truth glowed like an ember waiting to ignite. They hadn't discovered the second man tonight. He had revealed himself. On purpose. Like a performer stepping back into the light after 2 decades of silence. A second predator. A second architect. A second witness to Marina's final moments. And now, Rowan understood the Polaroid's message with chilling clarity. You forgot him. The cold case had never involved one man. It involved 2. And both had just stepped back onto the stage. The night did not release its grip on Marrow Creek after the encounter beneath the Evergreen Bridge. If anything, the darkness took on a new shape. Thicker, hungrier, vibrating with the echo of the voice that had risen from the underpass like a ghost no longer content to remain silent. You were late. Those 3 words rattled through Rowan's mind long after officers swept the tree line, long after search dogs circled futilely in widening arcs, long after the silhouette dissolved back into the folds of the forest. Whoever the second man was, he wanted to be seen. He wanted Rowan to hear him. He wanted to step into the old narrative with precision, as though rehearsing a role he had played before but never finished to satisfaction. By dawn, the bridge was deserted again. Snow had smoothed over every trace of footprints, erasing the night as though trying to protect the town from what it had witnessed. But Marrow Creek was already awake to the truth. One monster had not haunted the past, 2 had, and both were alive. Back at the station, tension crackled through the air like static. Photos from the bridge lay scattered across the main table. Officers whispered theories. Some spoke of accomplices, others of twin shadows stalking the same victim. But Rowan didn't want theories. He wanted patterns. Patterns didn't lie. Patterns didn't forget. Patterns didn't fear time. And the pattern he saw forming was not one of chaos, but choreography. He spread the Polaroids across the board. Marina at the bridge, the shadow behind her, the crates, the symbol carved into wood, the words you forgot him, the new Polaroid taken from beneath the bridge. Each image was like the frame of a film reel, and Rowan could feel the reel starting to spin faster, pulling him into a story that had been paused mid-scene for 24 long years. Finn entered the room holding a stack of old personnel files. Detective, you need to see this. His voice carried the tremor of someone who had stumbled onto something too big to name. Rowan looked up. Leonard Keene, Finn began, placing the first file on the table, worked temporary maintenance jobs all across town. Seasonal work, bridge repairs, diner plumbing, schoolyard cleanup, always short contracts, always rotating. And the second man? Rowan asked. Finn hesitated, then slid another file beside Keene's. Elias Ward, a name Rowan remembered only faintly, someone who lived on the outskirts of Marrow Creek in a rundown trailer near the timberline. A loner, a quiet man, a mechanic by trade, a face no one paid attention to for more than a few seconds. A man who blended into the periphery the same way Keene had. Too ordinary to suspect, too unremarkable to fear. Rowan opened Ward's file. His breath tightened. Ward and Keene worked 2 jobs together in 1999, one at the logging yard, one at the bridge maintenance team. Their shifts overlapped for 6 weeks leading up to Marina's disappearance. Their work routes crossed the same corridor Marina walked every night. And both had keys to the underbridge walkway. This is them, Finn said quietly. This is the pair Henry saw. Rowan nodded slowly, but his mind was already moving beyond identification. Identification was the beginning, not the end. He leaned over the map, pinned to the board. The diner, the bridge, the logging trail, Unit 17. All 4 points formed not a triangle now, but a diamond. A new shape, a shape that hinted at coordination rather than coincidence. A pattern that required 2 participants, 2 roles executed in tandem. What if they weren't just accomplices? Rowan murmured. What if they were performing something? A sequence, a ritual they designed. Finn looked uneasy. Why? Why Marina? Rowan stared at her school photo, the warmth in her eyes, the innocence of a life that never reached adulthood. Because she was visible, predictable. They didn't choose her randomly. They chose her because they had watched her long enough to know her every movement. They didn't need to lure her. One of them just had to speak. The other had to watch. He paused. And they did. The sheriff entered, tension radiating off him like heat. We ran searches on Keene and Ward. Keene's last confirmed residence was in 2002. Ward vanished the same year. 2 disappearances, months apart. No forwarding addresses. No employment after. No financial activity. Like they both walked off the map. Not walked, Rowan corrected. Slipped. The sheriff exhaled. Then why resurface now? Rowan didn't look away from the Polaroids. Because Henry talked. Because the story is moving again. Because someone wants the ending rewritten. A radio chirped in the background. Dispatch sounded shaken. Detective Gates' another envelope just arrived. No sender. No fingerprints. It was left on the steps. Rowan grabbed Finn. They rushed to the front entrance where a brown envelope sat half buried in snow. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single Polaroid. Not of Marina. Not of the bridge. Not of the town. But of Rowan. Taken from behind him at the storage unit earlier that night. His silhouette outlined by flashlight beams. His hand on the door of Unit 17. Underneath the photo, handwritten in the same cramped lettering. You see the world the way we did. Finn recoiled. They're watching you. Rowan's pulse thudded slowly, methodically. Fear didn't wash over him. Clarity did. They're not watching me, he said. They're selecting me. For what, he didn't know. But the message implied kinship, an idea more chilling than any threat. Someone believed Rowan understood their methods, their vision, their hunger for patterns. Someone was shaping him into the next piece on their board. The sheriff barked orders, doubling security, dispatching patrols to sweep the area, but Rowan barely heard. His mind was trapped in the reel of images, in the whispers of a winter long dead but not buried, in the knowledge that both Keene and Ward were deliberately forcing the investigation to mirror the past. He studied the photo of Ward from the personnel file. Broad shoulders, square jaw, posture like a standing post. That was the silhouette under the bridge. The man who clapped slowly. The man who remained after Marina vanished. Ward was the second figure. Keene was the first. 2 hunters, Rowan murmured. 2 roles. 2 perspectives. Finn frowned. Keene approaches the victim. Ward watches. Why 2? Because Keene needed Ward, Rowan said. For control. For the illusion of safety. Marina trusted the first man. She never knew the second was behind her. Finn swallowed. So what now? Rowan walked to the board, his voice low, steady, almost ritualistic. Now we ask the only question that matters. What did they take from those crates before we arrived? The room fell silent. Rowan pointed to the symbol carved inside one crate. This wasn't a signature. It was an organizational mark, meaning each crate held something specific, something sorted, cataloged. Finn's voice cracked. Evidence. No, Rowan said. Artifacts. Pieces of the story. Items tied to Marina. Maybe items tied to others. The sheriff's jaw tightened. You think there were other victims? Rowan didn't blink. I think Marina wasn't the beginning. He lifted the Polaroid of Marina facing the camera. Her expression wasn't fearful. It was soft, curious, alive. She wasn't looking at someone who threatened her. She was looking at someone she trusted. Keene. A man who had blended into her world just enough to seem harmless. Rowan felt something inside him snap into place like a lock turning. They watched her for months, he whispered. They prepared the bridge, the walkway, the crates, the routes, the car. He looked up. A machine this complex doesn't start from nothing. The sheriff's face went pale, meaning they practiced. Rowan nodded slowly, meaning there were rehearsal victims, meaning Marina wasn't chosen at random, meaning 2 decades ago, someone in this town vanished or suffered quietly, and no one knew they were the test run. Finn stared in horror. Detective, if that's true, who were they? Rowan looked at the Polaroid of his own silhouette. And the answer arrived, cold and sharp. Whoever they were, their story is inside those crates. The room's silence thickened. Because the crates had been emptied recently. Keene and Ward had taken the artifacts. They had taken the evidence. They had taken the memories. And now, they were walking backward through time. Rebuilding a story they never finished. A story that always had 2 hunters. A story that now had a new narrator. Rowan felt it. Deep, instinctual, undeniable. The cold case wasn't reopening. It was restarting. and he was already standing where Marina once stood. Morning crept into Marrow Creek with the dull gray light of a town waking under the wrong sky. Nothing felt familiar anymore. Not the streets, not the faces, not the rhythm of daily life. Not after the voice under the bridge. Not after the Polaroid of Rowan himself. Not after the realization that Keene and Ward, ghosts of 1999, were not only alive, but circling the investigation with the same predatory patience they once used on Marina Holloway. 24 years of silence had not softened them. It had sharpened them into something colder, something ritualistic, something that waited for the right moment to continue the story as though time had never passed. Rowan stood alone in the conference room, the Polaroids spread before him like tarot cards foretelling a future no one wanted to see. His own silhouette stared back from one of them, head tilted, posture tense, completely unaware the camera lens had been aimed at him. The caption beneath it burned into his thoughts. You see the world the way we did. A message not of mockery, but of selection. An invitation. A chilling proposition. Whoever wrote it did not believe Rowan was hunting them. They believed Rowan was becoming them. He forced the thought down. He couldn't afford the luxury of fear right now. Fear clouded patterns. Fear distorted truth. And truth was the only weapon he had against a pair who understood the art of disappearance better than anyone he'd ever hunted. Finn entered quietly, holding a file thick enough to bend the metal clip. Detective, we pulled everything on Keene and Ward. Employment logs, addresses, medical records, social security traces. But it's like they erased themselves years before they vanished. Rowan nodded without looking up. Show me. Finn laid out the documents. Keene's handwriting on maintenance reports, angular, precise, identical to the Polaroid captions. Ward's repair logs, minimal, but consistent. Both men had worked short-term jobs around the bridge, the logging yard, and the river. Both men had overlapping shifts in the months leading up to Marina's disappearance. Both men lived alone. Both had no criminal records. Both had no family ties. Both vanished within months of each other, leaving behind empty trailers, expired vehicle registrations, and neighbors who barely remembered them. They were ghosts before they disappeared, Finn said quietly. No, Rowan corrected. They practiced. Finn blinked. Practiced what? Erasing themselves, Rowan replied. They wanted to disappear long before Marina ever became a target. He traced the edges of the Polaroids with his eyes. Each was a breadcrumb, each a mark of control, each placed with intention. The men hadn't resurfaced because they'd lost their anonymity. They resurfaced because the script required them to. A knock sounded at the door. The sheriff stepped in, expression dark. We pulled Keene's old trailer. Nothing there. Empty for years. Ward, Rowan asked. The sheriff shook his head. Trailer's gone. Property sold. No forwarding records. Rowan stared at the map. Trailer gone. Crates emptied. A second voice under the bridge. Two silhouettes moving like shadows across old memories. Patterns connecting into shapes no one wanted to see. He lifted one Polaroid, the one showing Marina facing the camera, unaware. Her expression soft. Trusting. She wasn't startled. She wasn't frightened. She was listening. Listening to someone she thought she knew. That was the key. Rowan closed his eyes. They groomed her. Finn stiffened. Detective. They watched her, Rowan continued. Approached her. Spoke to her. Weeks before she vanished. Not enough to scare her. Just enough to become familiar. The sheriff rubbed his temples. So which one approached her? Keene or Ward? Rowan shook his head slowly. Both. He pointed at the Polaroid with the shadow behind Marina. Keene spoke to her. Ward watched her. That was their pattern. One played the face. The other played the shadow. Finn swallowed hard. Why two? Why involve two predators? Rowan's voice softened, becoming something darker. Because two roles create trust. One man gains her comfort. The other ensures control. No gaps. No chances to run. A silence fell over the room. Heavy, suffocating. Rowan stared at the Polaroid of himself once more. And now they want me in the center of the pattern. The sheriff looked alarmed. Rowan, don't romanticize their intention. They're taunting us. They're taunting you. No, Rowan murmured. This isn't taunting. Taunting is emotional. This is structural. They're building something. A reenactment. A story with roles. They think I fit a role. Finn's voice cracked. What role? Rowan didn't answer. Because he didn't know. Not yet. Deputy Laramie burst through the door, out of breath. "Detective, we have something." A call from a woman on Linden Road. She says someone's been watching her house. Rowan straightened. "How long?" "She doesn't know. Tonight she found footprints in her yard. Heavy ones. Too deep for regular boots." Rowan didn't wait. He grabbed his coat. "Let's go." The sheriff moved to stop him. "Rowan, this could be bait." "It is bait," Rowan said. "But we're going." They drove in near silence. Snow fell in heavy sheets, muffling sound, turning the world into a monochrome nightmare. The house on Linden Road sat at the edge of the forest, its windows glowing faintly in the pre-dawn gloom. The woman who answered the door, Caroline Pierce, looked exhausted, terrified, wrapped in a blanket. "Detective, I don't know what's happening. I woke up and saw them by the tree line. 2 of them. Not close. Just standing there. Watching." Rowan felt a chill grip his spine. 2. She nodded quickly. 1 taller. 1 thinner. They didn't move. They didn't speak. When I turned on the porch light, they stepped back into the shadows like they were waiting for me to look away. "Did they leave anything?" Rowan asked. She hesitated. "Yes. Something on the porch." She handed him a small object wrapped in cloth. Rowan unfolded it. A brass key. Number 18 etched into it. Finn swore under his breath. Another storage unit. Rowan felt his pulse drop. "They want us to follow." The sheriff looked grim. "Rowan, this is escalating faster than we can control." Rowan stared out at the forest where Caroline saw the 2 figures. Snow had already buried their footprints, as if the night itself refused to betray their direction. "They're done hiding," Rowan said. "Now they're guiding." Finn's voice trembled. "But toward what?" Rowan closed the cloth around the key. Unit 17 was the beginning. Unit 18 is the next chapter. They drove directly to the abandoned storage facility, which sat like a forgotten carcass at the edge of town. The place felt different now. Heavier, colder, alive with unseen eyes. Rowan approached Unit 18, the number barely visible under rust. The key slid in with unnatural ease. He turned it. The lock clicked open. Inside, the darkness wasn't empty. Not this time. A single item sat in the center of the unit, a wooden chair. The same kind of chair maintenance workers used at the bridge decades ago. On the seat lay another Polaroid. Rowan picked it up. His breath stalled. Marina. Not on the bridge. Not near the diner. But sitting in the exact same chair now placed before him. Hands folded. Expression neutral. As though waiting for something. Or someone. Beneath the photo, the caption read, "Before the walk." Finn shook his head. "Detective, what does that mean?" Rowan stared at the empty chair in front of him, the Polaroid trembling in his hand. "It means they met her before the night she disappeared," he whispered. "Not on the bridge. Not on the road. Somewhere else. Somewhere they controlled." He looked at the crates in Unit 17. The empty space in Unit 18. The new Polaroid. The pattern was expanding like a map unfolding under invisible hands. Finn's voice barely rose above a whisper. "Detective, what if there are more units?" Rowan swallowed hard. "There are." As they stepped back into the cold, the wind roared across the facility, carrying with it the faint echo of something too deliberate to be coincidence. Another clap. Slow. Measured. Then silence. Rowan turned. No one was there. But on the snow-dusted ground, a fresh footprint appeared, deep, heavy, unmistakably recent. A second footprint joined it. 2 hunters. 2 shadows. 2 ghosts pulling Rowan deeper into a story that had never ended. Only paused. And now, it was accelerating. The wind sharpened as Rowan stared at the twin footprints pressed into the snow. 2 impressions, fresh and heavy. Angled as though their makers had been standing side by side just moments before the officers stepped from Unit 18. Not fleeing. Not hiding. Simply standing, watching the investigators uncover what they were meant to uncover. Snowflakes melted in the hollows of the prints, still warm from the weight that had shaped them. Ward and Keene were close, closer than anyone wanted to admit. They were not phantoms drifting through memory. They were men made of breath and muscle and intention. Men who had mastered the art of vanishing just long enough to make their reappearance feel like a haunting. Finn approached slowly, whispering as though afraid the snow itself might hear him. "They were here less than a minute ago." Rowan didn't answer. He crouched, fingertips hovering above the edges of the indentations. The symmetry, the spacing, the certainty of their stance. These weren't the footprints of men caught off guard. They were prints placed with purpose. A statement. A signature without ink. The sheriff stepped beside him. They want us to know they're alive. No, Rowan murmured. They want us to follow. Because Ward and Keene weren't predators fleeing the light. They were architects directing a performance, pulling Rowan and his team through scenes long rehearsed, long polished, long perfected. The storage units weren't crime scenes. They were stages. And the Polaroids weren't clues. They were scripts. And somewhere ahead, somewhere down the path unfolding like a trail of breadcrumbs in the snow, waited the climax of a story 24 years in the making. Rowan stood slowly. He felt the weight of the Polaroid in his pocket. The image of Marina sitting in the wooden chair, hands folded like she'd been told to wait, told to stay still, told that something important was coming. Before the walk, the caption echoed inside his skull like a hammer striking steel. They didn't meet Marina by accident on the night she vanished. They summoned her, prepared her, conditioned her. The realization settled in Rowan's chest like ice. Back to the station, he said, his voice low but unshakably steady. Now, inside the sheriff's office, tension snapped through the air as officers pored over files, maps, photographs. Rowan spread the Polaroids across the board again. Unit 17, Unit 18, Marina on the chair, the bridge, himself. The images formed a chain of escalating intimacy, moving them deeper into the past, while simultaneously dragging Rowan into Keene and Ward's orbit. Finn placed a stack of documents on the table. Detective, we traced Ward's last payroll records. He quit the logging yard 2 weeks before Marina disappeared. Gave no reason, no forwarding address. And Keene, Rowan asked, left his bridge maintenance position the same month. Both men disappeared from public record shortly after. The sheriff frowned. They left together? Rowan stared at the map. No, they dissolved together. He could see it clearly now, not as evidence, but as choreography. 2 men stepping off the grid at the exact moment their ritual reached completion. 2 hunters vanishing into the woods like wolves retreating after a successful kill, leaving no trace but the silence they created. The silence that lasted 24 years. Rowan sat, letting the weight of it settle over him. They didn't run because they feared capture. They ran because they had finished what they wanted to do. Finn swallowed. So why come back now? Rowan reached into his pocket and placed the Polaroid of himself on the table. Because the story isn't finished. It never was. The sheriff muttered a curse. They're drawing you in. They're drawing us in, Rowan corrected. But yes, they're speaking to me specifically. They think I can understand them. And that is exactly why we need to move faster than they expect. Finn hesitated. Detective, you're starting to sound like them. Rowan didn't break eye contact. To catch someone who thinks in patterns, you have to understand the pattern. Before Finn could respond, a sudden electronic chirp sliced through the room. Dispatch's voice crackled over the intercom, frantic and trembling. Detective Gates, someone left a package outside your home. No sign of a suspect. It's addressed to you. Silence dropped instantaneously. Rowan stood. Secure it. Don't open it. But even as he said the words, he knew what was inside. Not a bomb. Not a threat. Something far more dangerous. A Polaroid. They drove to Rowan's home through roads glazed with ice, headlights illuminating swirling snow like ghosts pressed against the windshield. When they arrived, officers had already cordoned off the area. A small cardboard box sat on Rowan's porch, wrapped neatly with twine. Too neat, too careful, too deliberate. Rowan approached it slowly. Inside the box, cushioned with newspaper clippings from 1999, lay exactly what he expected. A single Polaroid. He lifted it with gloved hands. Marina again. But this time, not at the diner, not at the bridge, not in the chair. She stood in front of a building Rowan recognized instantly. His home. Not now. In 1999. Rowan felt the blood drain from his face. Finn choked out a whisper. She was here? Here? Before she vanished. But Rowan barely heard him. The caption beneath the image stole the breath from his lungs. She trusted you. The world tilted. The porch. The photograph. The cold beneath his skin. He had no memory of Marina ever coming to his home. No recollection. No encounter. Nothing. But the Polaroid didn't care about his memory. It cared about the truth. Finn stared at him, shaken. Detective, this is impossible. They're manipulating you. You didn't know her personally. Rowan cut him off, voice trembling despite his efforts to hold it steady. I was a rookie officer in '99. I canvassed local teens when the diner was hiring. Marina might have been with her mother. I might have spoken to them on the street. I might have given directions. Something small. Something forgettable. The sheriff exhaled heavily. They're twisting your history to tie you to the case. No, Rowan said softly. They're showing me something I overlooked. He stared at Marina's face in the Polaroid. She looked young in a way the world had forgotten how to see her, alive, bright, hopeful. And behind her, faint but visible, was a figure out of focus. Keen, photographing her from across Rowan's own front yard. Finn clenched his jaw. They took this picture to make you question yourself. Rowan shook his head. They took it because she was already on their radar. And they followed her just like they're following me. He looked at Unit 18. At the chair. At before the walk. Patterns. Always patterns. Finn spoke carefully. Detective, if Marina was here before she vanished, maybe she was trying to tell someone something. Maybe she tried to ask for help. Rowan's stomach twisted. Because if that was true, he failed her before he even knew she'd needed him. Suddenly the sheriff's radio crackled again. All units. Possible trespasser reported at the Evergreen Bridge. Caller says someone is standing in the center of the walkway, not moving. Finn's face went pale. It's them. No, Rowan said, voice steadying into something dangerously calm. It's one of them. They sped toward the bridge, sirens off, tires biting the ice. The structure rose in the distance like a skeletal monument, lit by the dim flickering of the faulty lights. A figure stood exactly where the caller reported. Tall. Still. Facing the river. Ward. Rowan stepped out of the car before anyone else could move. Snow swallowed the sound of his boots. His breath fogged into a pale halo. Ward didn't turn. Didn't flinch. Didn't acknowledge the officers fanning out around the perimeter. He simply spoke. You're following well. Rowan felt every muscle in his body tighten. Where is Keen? Ward tilted his head slightly, a gesture eerily reminiscent of the silhouette Henry had seen 24 years earlier. You see the patterns, Ward said. You walk them. You feel them, just as she did. Finn raised his weapon. Hands where we can see them. Ward didn't move. Didn't obey. Didn't care. Rowan lifted a hand to stop Finn. Why come back, Ward? Why now? Ward finally turned his head, profile sliding into the dim light. We kept her story, he said. You opened it. Rowan stepped closer. Why, Marina? Ward smiled faintly, an expression devoid of warmth. She trusted him. Rowan's blood went cold. Trusted who? Ward's eyes drifted toward the trees, where another shadow stood. Keen. Watching. Waiting. Silent as snowfall. And Rowan understood, with brutal clarity, that the story was no longer about past victims. It was about the next one. And the next scene was already beginning. For a heartbeat that felt like an entire winter, no one moved. Ward stood at the center of the Evergreen Bridge like a sculpture carved from frost, his breath barely visible in the cold. His presence radiated a disturbing calm, the kind that came from a man who had rehearsed this moment, who had waited for it, who believed he belonged exactly where he was standing. And beyond him, half hidden by the skeletal tree line on the north bank, Keen's silhouette held its vigil, still, unbroken, patient. Two predators reunited under the same bridge where their ritual had begun 24 years earlier. Finn lifted his weapon instinctively, but Rowan raised a hand, freezing the moment before it spun out of control. Ward's eyes tracked the gesture, and he smiled, slow, deliberate, unsettling in its quiet satisfaction. Patterns, Ward murmured. Always patterns. His voice drifted across the icy air like something not meant for human ears, a whisper that belonged to a darker landscape. Rowan stepped forward. You chose Marina. You approached her long before the night she vanished. Why? Why her? Ward tilted his head, examining Rowan with an unnerving mixture of curiosity and recognition. She wasn't chosen. She was revealed. Revealed by who? Rowan pressed. Ward didn't break eye contact. By him. The name wasn't spoken, but it didn't need to be. Keen's shadow shifted slightly at the edge of the trees, the movement so subtle Rowan might have missed it if he weren't watching for it. Keen remained silent. Always the watcher, the shadow, the architect behind the scenes. Ward was his voice, his echo, the half of the ritual that spoke while the other half observed. Rowan's pulse hammered against his ribs. Step away from the edge of the bridge, Ward. Slowly. Ward ignored the command. You're walking deeper into the past than you realize, Detective. You've taken the steps. You've opened the doors. She did too. Rowan felt a flare of anger beneath the cold calm. Marina trusted someone. She trusted you. Ward's smile widened just enough to show teeth. No, she trusted him. I was only the shadow. Rowan swallowed hard. Then Keen approached her first. Ward blinked lazily, like a man waking from a long dream. Approach. Watch. Wait. It was all the same to her. She saw the world as gently as you do. And gentle people always mistake structure for safety. The bridge groaned under the weight of the wind. Snow cascaded from the metal beams above, drifting in slow spirals between Rowan and Ward. Finn whispered behind Rowan. We need to move in, now. Rowan shook his head. No sudden movements. Ward glanced toward Finn, then back to Rowan. Your partner fears what he doesn't understand. You don't fear it. You see it. The words crawled under Rowan's skin like ice. You say I see the world the way you did, Rowan said, voice tight. Why? What do you think I'm becoming? Ward chuckled softly, the sound so casual it made the moment even more horrifying. Understanding isn't becoming, but one can lead to the other. Enough, Rowan snapped. You're here because you want something. Say it. Ward stepped 1 inch closer, just enough to jolt every officer on the scene. Closure, he said simply. Not yours. Ours. Rowan's breath caught. Closure for what you did to Marina? Ward's eyes softened with something disturbingly close to nostalgia. We didn't close her story. It remained open, suspended, incomplete. And for a story to endure, Detective Gates, it must end. A chill deeper than winter clawed up Rowan's spine. You want us to find her? No, Ward whispered. We want you to find her part. Before Rowan could ask what he meant, Ward lifted his hand slowly, as if placing something into the air, and revealed a small object between his fingers. A brass key, number 19 etched into its surface. A third unit. A third chapter. Ward let the key fall. It spun downward, glinting once in the dim light before disappearing into the snow below the bridge. Rowan lunged instinctively toward the railing as Ward stepped backward, but not to flee. To leave. To rejoin Keen. But as he turned, officers surged forward, weapons raised, shouts bursting into the air. Ward didn't run. He simply stepped back into the shadows beneath the bridge, vanishing into the underpass with inhuman calm. Officers scrambled in pursuit, but Rowan already knew the outcome. Ward and Keen were men who had learned to disappear in a world that didn't want to see them. Men who could slip into darkness as easily as snow dissolved into water. Within minutes, the underpass patrol returned empty-handed. No footprints. No movement. Nothing but fading echoes and frost. Rowan gripped the railing tightly, staring down at the snowdrifts below where the key had vanished. One officer rappelled down with a flashlight, searching the powder. Minutes later, he found it, lying neatly, cleanly, upright in the snow, as though placed by careful hands rather than dropped at random. Keen had retrieved it, and he had placed it there again. Deliberate. In control. Always one step ahead. Rowan pocketed the key. Finn stared at him, shaken. Detective, we shouldn't keep following these breadcrumbs. They want to control the investigation. They already do, Rowan said, voice low. But if we stop walking their path, we lose sight of where it leads. The sheriff rubbed his temples. Unit 19. Another abandoned unit. Another Polaroid waiting inside. Another trap. Rowan looked at the bridge one last time before turning toward the patrol cars. Not a trap, he said. A reconstruction. The drive to the storage facility felt longer than it had before, each mile stretching like a held breath. Night had given way to a bleached gray afternoon, the kind that made the world feel drained of color, drained of warmth, drained of hope. The facility loomed like a broken skeleton, rows of rusted units lined up like ribs. Rowan approached Unit 19, key in hand. Snow crunched softly beneath his shoes. Finn and the sheriff flanked him, officers positioned at the corners of the lot. He inserted the key, turned it. The lock clicked open with an ease that felt scripted. The door slid upward, and the darkness inside seemed to inhale the cold air before exhaling something heavier, something old. At first glance, the unit appeared empty. No crates. No Polaroids. No chair. Just bare concrete walls and a floor dusted with snow that had blown in through cracks. But Rowan's eyes caught something small near the back wall. A scrap of fabric. Red. He walked toward it slowly, each footstep echoing in the cavernous space. He crouched and lifted the fabric gently. A piece of a jacket. A red jacket. Marina's color. Finn stepped closer, dread etched deep into his expression. Detective is that. Part of what she wore, Rowan said quietly. They brought it here recently. It wouldn't have survived 24 years exposed. He stood. Something shifted in the air. A whisper of movement. A cold draft through the narrow cracks above. And then Rowan saw it. A message etched into the back wall, written not with marker or pen, but with something sharp, something dragged slowly across concrete with purpose. A symbol. The same circle with a vertical line carved in Unit 17. But now, beneath it, a sentence. She sat here too. Finn's breath hitched. Jesus. The sheriff stepped back. This is where they kept her. No, Rowan said, reading every groove, every letter, every stroke. This is where they observed her. The same way they've been observing us. He turned toward the entrance. And for the first time, he felt eyes watching from somewhere beyond the row of units. Eyes belonging to the two men who had mastered invisibility. Unit 20 is next, Rowan said. Finn stared at him. You really think there's a Unit 20? Rowan nodded, voice quiet but certain. There's a unit for every step of their ritual. And we're only halfway through. A soft sound drifted across the wind. A clap. Slow. Measured. The same haunting rhythm they'd heard under the bridge. And Rowan understood, with bone-deep certainty. Ward and Keene weren't just resurfacing. They were rebuilding the night Marina vanished. Piece by piece. Unit by unit. And they were only getting started. Snow thickened over the storage facility like a slow burial as Rowan stood before Unit 19, the echo of the last clap still vibrating somewhere deep in the structure's metal ribs. The red scrap of Marina's jacket weighted his glove with the phantom warmth of a life that had once struggled, breathed, hoped inside these cold concrete walls. The carved sentence, she sat here too, burned behind his eyes like an accusation. The unit wasn't just a stage. It was a memory cell, a chamber preserved for reenactment. Keene and Ward were moving them through Marina's final hours with the precision of men who remembered every breath she took, every inch she moved, every moment she realized she wouldn't escape. And as Rowan walked out of that unit into the pale afternoon light, he knew one terrifying truth. The next unit would take them deeper, and deeper still, until there was nowhere left to walk but the exact place where Marina's footsteps had ended. Finn jogged to catch up. Detective, if Unit 19 was where they kept her, what's Unit 20? What comes next? Rowan didn't look back. The walk. But we don't know if they numbered the units in any order that means anything, Finn pressed. It could be random. Rowan shook his head. Nothing they do is random. He could feel it, like a hum rising from the ground into the soles of his boots. A pattern beneath the surface of everything, waiting to be unearthed. The storage units weren't arranged alphabetically or numerically by chance. Keene and Ward had chosen them deliberately, their keys forming a path that matched Marina's movements, from the beginning, to the preparation, to the first steps into darkness. And now, Unit 20 beckoned. The sheriff caught up with them, his breath white and ragged. Rowan, we can't keep chasing this. They're leading us somewhere. And every step we take is exactly where they want us. I know, Rowan said. Then why follow? Because the only way to reach the end of their path is to walk it. The sheriff stared at him, seeing something in Rowan he hadn't seen before. Something sharp, relentless, the same cold recognition Ward had noticed on the bridge. But before he could speak, a deputy shouted from across the lot. Detective, over here. Rowan, Finn, and the sheriff hurried across the snow, the wind slicing through their coats. The deputy stood near Unit 20, the number rusted but visible beneath a crust of frost. The lock hung open, no key necessary. Someone had already turned it from the inside. Rowan's pulse tightened. He reached for the handle and lifted the door. The metal groaned upward. Inside, darkness didn't just sit, it seemed to wait. The first thing Rowan noticed was the cold. Not the natural cold of Oregon winter, but cold held intentionally, as though the unit had been opened only moments before, as though something or someone had been inside less than an hour ago. He stepped forward. A faint echo followed. Not his own. Finn swallowed hard. Detective, do you hear that? Rowan nodded. Voices. They drifted through the unit like dying radio static, faint, disjointed. A woman's voice, barely above a whisper. Then a man's voice. Then silence. Then breath. Finn raised his flashlight and illuminated the far wall. Old cassette tapes. Dozens of them. Stacked neatly in rows. Unlabeled. Untouched by dust. Rowan approached slowly. They recorded her. Finn froze. Dear God. Rowan picked up one tape. The plastic was cold, too cold for how long it had supposedly been inside. Freshly placed. Recently handled. Ward's and Keen's fingerprints wouldn't be on it. They were too meticulous for that. But the meaning didn't require prints. The tapes were memory fragments. Vindication of a story only they understood. Pieces of Marina's final night preserved not as evidence, but as ritual. Finn whispered, do we play one? Rowan didn't answer verbally. He simply moved to a small portable player left on the floor, the cord wrapped neatly around it. Another offering. Another choreographed step. He unwrapped the cord, plugged it into the portable generator someone had left humming in the corner, and placed the tape inside. He pressed play. Static crackled, rough at first, then softened. A voice emerged. Female. Trembling. Confused. Where are we going? Finn closed his eyes. Rowan didn't blink. Another voice answered her. Not Ward. Keen. Low. Gentle. Practiced. Just a place we can talk. A door creaked. Footsteps. Marina inhaled sharply as though the cold hit her. It's freezing, I don't think we should. A third voice overlapped hers. Ward. Calm. Controlled. Sit. Then a scraping sound. A chair being moved. The same chair from Unit 18. Marina's breathing grew more labored. She was trying not to cry, trying to understand, trying to trust them, trying to believe she wasn't in danger. Then Keen spoke again, almost kindly. We just need you to listen. Marina's voice cracked. To what? Why am I here? Ward replied, his tone like ice sliding across steel. To understand your place. Rowan's thumb hovered over the stop button, but he couldn't press it. He had to hear. He had to know. He had to understand the part of Marina's story that had been hidden behind 24 years of silence. The tape continued. Keen whispered something Rowan couldn't decipher. Then footsteps moved closer to the microphone. Marina gasped. A struggle. A muffled scream. The tape cut abruptly into static. Finn staggered backward. We can't listen to more of these, Rowan. We can't. We have to, Rowan said, though his voice shook. This is the only truth they've given us. Rowan ejected the tape, placed it on the floor, and reached for another. But before he could slide it into the player, a sharp metallic clang echoed across the facility. All officers drew their weapons. The sheriff hissed, "They're here." Rowan felt it before he saw it. A shadow moved across the far end of the units. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone strolling through their own memory palace. Finn pointed. South side. Officers swept toward the movement, flashlights cutting through the gray light. Rowan stepped outside Unit 20, scanning the horizon. Another shadow appeared near Unit 22, then vanished. Not running. Guiding. Showing the path. And Rowan knew, with absolute certainty, that there were more units to open, more Polaroids to retrieve, more memories to extract. They were being led not toward a trap, but toward revelation. Unit 21. Unit 22. Unit 23. The numbers stretched into a corridor of cold doors, each one holding a piece of a night the town had never understood. Marina's walk wasn't a straight line. It twisted, meandered, turned back on itself. Ward and Keen were rebuilding it faithfully, ensuring Rowan walked each turn as she had. The sheriff approached, breath heavy. They're playing a game with us. Rowan shook his head. Not a game. A script. And what's the ending? Finn demanded. Rowan exhaled slowly. The bridge. Finn clenched his jaw. We were just there. Rowan stared at the horizon where the metal silhouette loomed faintly. And we'll be there again. Soon. Because whatever's left of Marina's story ends where it began. A gust of wind tore across the facility, and a single object skittered across the snow like a living thing. A Polaroid. Fresh. Rowan snatched it before the wind carried it farther. The image showed Unit 23. Doors slightly open. A shadow standing inside. Not Keen. Not Ward. Someone else. A woman. Finn whispered. Is that Marina? Rowan shook his head slowly. No, it's someone alive. The caption beneath the photo read. She wasn't the only one. The world narrowed into a single, sharp line. Another victim. Unreported. Unfound. Possible survivor. Or bait. Finn took a staggering breath. Detective, we need to shut this down. Now. This has gone too far. Rowan looked at the Polaroid, then at Unit 23 in the distance. His voice was calm. Too calm. They're showing us the next truth. And if we stop now, we won't just lose the case. We'll lose her. Whoever she is. The sheriff swallowed. Rowan, this is exactly what they want. I know, Rowan said. And you're still walking into it. Rowan lowered the Polaroid, snow biting into his gloves. Because someone walked into it in 1999 alone. And I won't let that happen again. He stepped forward. Toward Unit 23. Toward the next memory. Toward the next victim. And as the wind howled through the rows of rusted doors, Rowan felt the presence of Ward and Keen watching from somewhere just out of sight. Pleased, patient, ready. The walk had begun again. And this time, it wasn't Marina taking the steps. It was him. Rowan walked toward Unit 23 as though the snow-covered ground beneath him were shifting, reshaping itself with every step, pulling him deeper into a story that no longer felt like a case, but a labyrinth built from memories. Memories that weren't his. Memories that didn't belong to anyone living. Memories shaped by the hands of men who had dedicated their lives to controlling what the world remembered and what it forgot. The Polaroid of the woman's silhouette, standing inside Unit 23, small, still, waiting, felt heavier than any evidence he had carried before. She wasn't the only one. Those words clung to Rowan's thoughts like frost on glass, refusing warmth, refusing clarity, refusing escape. Finn followed close behind, nerves fraying with each breath. Rowan, listen to me. If someone else is alive, if someone else is being held, we need to secure the perimeter first. We need backup. We need. Rowan shook his head, motion sharp, instinctive. If she's alive, she doesn't have time for procedure. The sheriff stepped in front of them, blocking the path momentarily. This is exactly how they want you to think. They're manipulating your urgency. They're manufacturing a victim. Rowan's voice dropped into something low, carved from conviction. Or they're showing us one. He stepped around the sheriff, moving faster now. Unit 23 loomed in the distance like a mouth carved into the winter landscape. Dark, hollow, unblinking. The number above the handle was almost eaten away by rust, but he could still make it out. The wind screamed through the rows of units, slamming loose metal against metal like warning bells. Rowan reached the door. It was cracked open, just like in the Polaroid. He pulled his flashlight and pushed the door up. Light cut into the darkness. It hit a wall first, covered in paper. Not Polaroids. Drawings. Hundreds of them. Pinned, taped, nailed to the concrete. Women's faces. Some detailed, some abstract, some drawn in frantic strokes, some drawn with meticulous precision. Marina appeared again and again, smiling, frowning, crying, screaming, staring blankly, eyes crossed out in black ink. Other faces Rowan didn't recognize crowded the walls, overlapping like a collage of vanished lives. Finn inhaled sharply. Dear God, what is this? Rowan stepped deeper into the unit, each breath stinging his lungs. The drawings were not random. They were arranged in concentric circles around a bare metal pole bolted into the center of the room. A rusted chain dangled from the top of the pole, swaying gently in the draft. A faint sound echoed from deeper inside. Breathing. But not his. Not Finn's. Rowan turned sharply, flashlight beams slicing across the concrete. A figure stood in the far left corner, small, hunched, covered in a blanket the color of dust. Rowan lifted his hand. Ma'am, are you hurt? The figure didn't respond. Finn whispered urgently, we need medics, now. Rowan moved closer, slowly, carefully, as though approaching a wounded animal. The figure flinched slightly at the light, pulling the blanket tighter, revealing thin wrists, bruised ankles, tangled hair. Not Marina. Someone else. Someone who had lived in darkness far too long. Rowan crouched. You're safe. I promise you're safe. At the word safe, the figure made a sound, a small whimper, fragile as breaking ice. She shifted enough for Rowan to see one eye beneath the blanket, wide, hollow, terrified. He lowered his flashlight beam. You don't have to speak. Just nod if you can understand me. A long moment passed. Then, a faint, trembling nod. Finn exhaled, relief and horror mixing painfully. She's alive. But Rowan didn't stand. His gaze swept the surrounding drawings again. The patterns, the circles, the repetition. Every drawing was of a woman. Every face mirrored another. Every expression varied. But the eyes were always the same. Wide, pleading, uncomprehending. These aren't drawings of one person, Rowan murmured. They're drawings of many. Finn scanned the walls, face tightening. How many do you think? Rowan cut him off. Too many. The woman in the corner began to rock slightly, her breath uneven, panicked. Rowan reached slowly for his radio. It's okay, he said softly. Help is coming. No one will hurt you ever again. She shook her head violently. Rowan blinked. What? What is it? Her voice emerged like air escaping a cracked bottle. Thin, raspy, desperate. Not gone. Finn stiffened. What isn't gone? Her trembling hand lifted, pointing toward the darkness behind Rowan. Rowan turned. At first, he saw nothing. Then, slowly, a shape separated itself from the shadow near the back wall. Tall. Thin. Still. Watching. Not Ward. Not Keen. Someone else. A third man. Rowan froze. Finn raised his weapon, horror clawing across his face. Rowan moved. But the man did not advance. Did not speak. Did not even fully step into the light. He simply stood, a silhouette carved from shadow, head slightly tilted as though examining Rowan, measuring him, studying him the way Ward had. Rowan forced his voice steady. Who are you? The silhouette didn't move. Finn stepped forward, gun locked. Identify yourself now. Still nothing. Rowan felt it. The same sensation he'd felt at Unit 17, Unit 18, under the bridge, but amplified now. More present. More deliberate. The man was not hiding from the light. He was choosing not to enter it. Choosing to remain half-seen. Then, slowly, he raised his hand. Not in surrender. In greeting. A gesture that felt disturbingly familiar. Finn's breath caught. Rowan, what is this? Who the hell is he? Rowan answered without turning. He's their witness. The shadow shifted, just a fraction. Enough to confirm Rowan's theory without a word spoken. A third participant. But not a hunter. An observer. Someone who watched Keen and Ward as they watched Marina. Someone who learned their ritual. Someone who kept it alive. Someone who had now stepped into the story's center. Suddenly, the stranger spoke. A single word. Soft. Measured. Continue. Finn backed up, panic rising. We're leaving. Right now? Rowan. But Rowan wasn't listening. Because the word wasn't addressed to them. It was addressed to the woman in the corner. Her entire body seized at the sound. She covered her ears, shaking violently, blanket falling away to reveal fresh bruises, marks that told a story too brutal to speak aloud. The third man stepped back into the shadow and vanished. Finn ran to the corner, wrapping the woman in his coat. We're getting you out. Right now? Rowan, help me lift her. Rowan lifted his radio, voice clipped with urgency. Dispatch, we have a live victim. Female, mid-20s. Severe trauma. Send medics and additional units. Priority 1. The sheriff burst into the unit moments later, saw the woman, saw the drawings, saw Rowan's expression, and understood. But Rowan wasn't looking at her. He was staring at a drawing on the wall, one he hadn't noticed before. A woman's portrait, sketched in charcoal, different from the rest. The features drawn carefully, methodically. Not Marina. Someone older. Someone Rowan recognized. His throat tightened. The drawing was of the woman Henry Locke had mentioned in passing. A woman from 1998 who vanished for 48 hours before being found wandering the forest, disoriented, unable to speak. The town called it trauma-induced amnesia. She left Marrow Creek shortly after. Her name was Claire Danner. And she had been here too. Finn approached, face pale. Rowan, what are you thinking? Rowan spoke slowly, as though assembling a truth too heavy to lift. This isn't a case that started in 1999. Marina wasn't the first victim. She wasn't even the first attempt. They were practicing on others. Learning. Refining. He gestured toward the drawings, dozens of faces. Marina was their perfect story, but not their only one. The sheriff whispered, Rowan, we need to get this girl out and shut down this facility. Rowan shook his head. We shut this down, we lose the path. And Ward and Keene disappear again. He looked at the woman, fragile, shaking, clinging to Finn's coat like a life raft, then at the darkness where the third man had vanished. They're not done, Rowan said. They're building to something. Finn frowned. Building to what? Rowan lifted the Polaroid of Unit 23. The caption echoed in his mind. She wasn't the only one. Then another thought, colder, sharper, struck him like a blade of ice. If she wasn't the only one, then Marina wasn't the only story being reenacted. The sheriff grabbed Rowan's arm. Detective, we've reached the point where following the path is suicide. Rowan stared into the cold expanse stretching beyond the rows of units, into the forest, toward the river, toward the bridge. Not suicide, he whispered. Preparation. Preparation for what? Finn demanded. Rowan closed his eyes. The answer came with brutal clarity. For the night to repeat. Because Ward and Keene weren't showing him Marina's past. They were rehearsing their future. And Rowan had just stepped into the role they'd left empty for 24 years.